Hallo.
Nee, niet beter. Beter, ja. Two challenges in healthcare. The first one is a challenge, especially in Europe, the challenge of the aging population. We see that for every elderly person, there are three people working, paying their taxes so as to be able to pay for the healthcare costs of these elderly people. And this will get worse. So in 2050, this will be only two people working and making all the taxes to pay for these costs. So you can imagine that this is becoming too expensive. We need to be more efficient in healthcare to keep it affordable. Another challenge is information overload. So not only in Europe or all over the world, if you look at the amount of information that a doctor, an amount of knowledge that a doctor must have to give good treatment to patients, it's enormous. So in internal medicine, a doctor should know about 2 million facts, it is estimated. And it is very difficult for doctors to keep up with their knowledge because there's so many new articles published and they must read all day to really stay ahead of all developments in healthcare. So an old study in 2001 said doctors have to read 20 articles per day to keep up. But that's of course not possible. So how then can you guarantee that they can give the right care? Well, we have to help them. We have, as medical informatics profession, we must make sure that they can get the information that they need for a particular patient at the right time by their computer. So these are two challenges, and medical informatics can help address them. Not completely solve them, but help address them. And these are very important problems. So we need you guys to join us and start a career in medical informatics and make sure that healthcare keeps affordable and with a good quality. So what are then things that medical informatics does? A very quick list of topics to show that it's a very diverse field. We help healthcare workers to measure the quality of the work and to improve the quality of the work by looking at the processes that they are following and by optimizing these processes. We provide decision support. We help doctors make decisions by giving them information in the right form. We discover in large amounts of data knowledge that can help with, for instance, decision support. We develop algorithms to process medical images made by, for instance, MRIs, so that doctors can more easily make, for instance, a diagnosis built on a medical image. We try to make sure that programs that need to communicate with each other indeed can exchange information with each other in such a way that the other program can actually do something with the information from the other program. We help designers of computer programs to improve user interfaces in such a way that healthcare workers can better and faster do their work and make fewer mistakes. So these are a few examples. There are many, many more. To give you a bit of idea of the things that we do. Medical informatics acts on many levels. So on the level of individual patients and individual healthcare workers, but also on a higher level of, for instance, departments of hospitals and the processes that are happening there. But even on a higher level of the healthcare system and processes that involve multiple institutions. For instance, GPs, hospitals, pharmacies, they all need to collaborate, exchange information, and we need to improve that to optimize it. And to do this, we need to act at multiple layers. We act at the lowest layer of the information technology infrastructure. Slightly above that, the layer of the software and the information that we exchange and is used by this software, but also the processes at the healthcare level where the software is used. The policies are involved. We cannot always just exchange the information that we like to exchange. We have to follow the policies of the hospital and also the laws of the country where we are exchanging information. So all these layers we have to study, to understand, and to take into account. So that's a very quick overview of our field, medical informatics. Now let's turn to our master program, also called medical informatics. At the AMC, the people here have actually found the AMC, and our faculty, people at home. I hope to welcome you here as well another time. Well, let's just dive in and give you a quick overview of our curriculum. And the master is a 2-year program. And this is the first semester of the first year. And the first 4 courses are together a cluster of AI-related courses. I will not go into details. We'll hear more from our students. But as you can see, all the courses have the same length. They're all 4 weeks. We'll have 4 weeks 4 times, then 2 weeks of Christmas holidays, and then a short internship of 4 weeks here at the hospital. So it's always 1 course at a time, but in parallel with all these courses is another short course running, and that's the academic skills course, scientific analysis and reporting. That's the first semester. Second semester has a somewhat similar design. Again, 4 courses, and the last 3 are about management, and we finish off with an internship 4 weeks, and in parallel we have an academic skills course running, and this is about management communications. So it's more about management skills than research skills. Then we have the second year, And there you have elective courses for 18 ECTS. And then you finish off with a scientific research project where you do your final research, you write your thesis that you present, and then you have your master's degree. For the elective courses, there are three possibilities. You can choose our elective track, AI for Health. You can choose our elective track, Sustainable eHealth Solutions. And you can choose any other course, well, not any course, but somewhat related to our field, of interest to our field, courses from our university or another university. If you start our master in February, it is a possibility. If you do that, you cannot choose the elective tracks, and you must choose other courses. So I would advise you to start in September. The AI for Health track is offered together, is offered by our program and the two AI masters from the VU and UvA University. 4 courses. I will not go into details, but you can imagine that image processing is part of it. It's also natural language processing. Then we have the other elective track, Sustainable eHealth Solutions, 3 courses. And there we look at UX aspects of software, medical software, of course, and also at the sustainability issues of software solutions. Okay, a very quick view at a few scientific research projects. There are a few possibilities. You can your project abroad. If you're interested in visiting another country, we have links with other universities. This is, for example, a scientific research project by Niduya, and she did a project about explainable AI, and she did that at the University of London, the City University. A project by Yuri, and he did his work at a company, Vital 10, and he looked at how he could make sure that patients would keep on using an app. And of course, it's also possible to do your project in the AMC, Amsterdam UMC. That was Nona. She did this at the anesthesiology department, and she looked at effects of reusing instruments and how that affected the impact on the environment. What happens then when you finish your studies, your career? We do every 6 years, we have a survey among our alumni, and here are a few of the results. We ask, how long did you search for a job? I think these results are about 3 years old, and what was it? 88% answered, I didn't have to search for a job. They already had a job at the moment that they graduated. We asked, what kind of employment do you have? And 75% answered, I'm employed at some kind of company or organization. and only 6% was his own, was an entrepreneur. We asked in which field are you working? About 56% answered, I'm working in healthcare related IT. And then there's also a group who works in IT but not healthcare related. People who work in healthcare but not IT related. And also a group who went into research. So maybe they later move on to one of these other sectors. 26% works at the hospital. So all the other people work at a company or a non-profit organization, but 26% is in the hospital. So if you got the impression from the first part that we are preparing you for a career in the hospital, that's not necessarily the case. Common roles, consultant, software developer, researcher, and then these are, I think, the main ones. And then we had a very long list with much lower numbers. Company owner, assistant professor, information analyst, a very long list. Let's now have a perspective from the students. Sophie.
All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the UMC, or if you're joining online, welcome. My name is Sophie, and I am a first-year master's student in the medical informatics program. And today I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself, my experience getting into the program, but also currently doing the program. Can I go to the next slide? Okay, so a little bit about me. Despite my name, I am not from the Netherlands. I was born in Venezuela, but I grew up in Houston, Texas, and I did my bachelor's degree in the US. I don't come from a medical IT background, so there are, kind of two groups in medical informatics, those that come from the medical informatics background, but we also have plenty of students that do not come from a medical informatics background, and I'm one of them. I did 2 bachelor's degrees. I did one of them in neuroscience, and I did the other one in French studies from the University of Texas at Austin. I was on the pre-medical track, so I do come from the medical field. I have experience in public health, basic science research, clinical research, etc. So the original plan was to study medicine, but after graduation, I did discover medical informatics, and I was very fascinated by it. So I looked into it and decided, let me pursue this, let me try this out. And so far, no regrets. I started the pre-master last summer. I had to take about 8 or 9 pre-master classes. The way that I did the pre-master would be different from the way that you are doing the pre-master, but if you have any questions on the content of the pre-master, I can answer them. But basically, when I did the pre-master, it was a self-study. But if any of you are going to do the pre-master, it will actually be in-person classes. So I finished that in summer of 2024, and then I started the master back in September. I am doing the AI for health track. So like Floris said, he didn't really go into the classes, and I will go into the classes a little bit. So far, I have just completed the first semester. And so that is about 4 classes and then academic skills on top of that, which is about 5 classes. And then I am currently in MUM 5. So it is the 5th class, and it's actually currently with Floris. And so I can tell you a little bit about my experience with these classes and what I did. So in the first one, like Floris said, the first semester is very AI focused. So the first class is actually a new class that was launched this past year. It was called Current Issues in Medical Informatics and AI. And so we broached several different topics each week. We had a different guest lecturer from different parts of the faculty in the university. And we broached topics such as NLPs in medicine, but also evaluating scientific research on AI in medicine. And one thing in particular that stood out was we made an AI tutor, which was basically we were tasked with building an AI tutor for a given class. It was either a pre-master class or a bachelor's class. And so through that project, we gained hands-on experience with dealing with these AI models particularly. We took it from more an educational standpoint, but definitely transferable skills into the field of medicine. So for the second class, well, the second and third class, those are statistics classes. The first one is just the fundamentals, and the second one is more advanced. So these classes were completed in R, or at least I did them in R, but if you have another programming language that you prefer, I know a couple of classmates did them in Python. So I gained experience in different forms of modeling, linear modeling, logistic regression. We also in the second class, did a deeper dive into some of the more complex forms of modeling, like random forest, support vector machines, et cetera, and touched into Bayesian statistics. If you have questions about, the content of any of these classes, feel free to ask. So the next one we did was the data-driven decision-making in healthcare. And basically, this was also a project-based class. So all of the classes so far, including the class that I'm taking right now, they are project-based, which means we have very, very few exams. I actually haven't taken an exam yet. I will take my first exam in like 2 weeks. And so for the fourth class that I took, which was the last one before the break, it was you could choose different projects. And so one of the projects could be on building your own clinical decision support system. So helping doctors make medical decisions using data. What I did was a project on reasoning with health data. And basically it broached questions of, well, we have this data. How can we make it reusable? How can we efficiently store it, share it, and make it the most optimized to further medical initiatives, research, scientific endeavors in general? So I worked with something called the FAIR principles, which is basically increasing the accessibility and the interoperability of medical data. And like Floris said, with the first four classes, there's another class that runs in parallel. It's called academic skills. And so this one, we were put into these little peer groups where we would for each of the classes, we would have a project. And in these, with academic skills, we would have a project from the class and then take it into academic skills and give each other peer feedback. So for one of them, we had to make a poster presentation. For another one, we had to write a method section of a paper. And we had these little groups of about 4 students. And so we each gave each other feedback and we were guided by a faculty member. So this is really focusing on improving your scientific skills. So your scientific writing, your presentation, your poster making abilities, things that will really help you present yourself in science. And I personally felt like I learned a lot from there. There is always so much to learn in scientific writing and these skills. And currently, I am taking the Biomedical Information Systems Engineering course with Floris. And right now, it is a more technical course. And I am doing a project on serverless cloud computing using Microsoft Azure. So just to give you an idea, but there are other project groups on more technical things like microservices, data lakes, et cetera, et cetera. So in general, what I want to communicate to you is that this is very project-based. And what I do like about that is that you will get to know your peers, you'll get to know your classmates, you will get to collaborate with them. And it has been a really nice way to also get to know my classmates and kind of simulate these real life working environments where you will be collaborating with others regularly. And so, like Flora said, there's also an internship in January. I am doing the AI track, so there is a special form of the internship, which is called the AI combined internship. So it's a little bit longer.
But not next year, not anymore. So you're I think the last one who takes this.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Never mind.
Never mind.
So, I, well, you guys won't have to do it, but since I'm doing the AI combined internship, my internship is a little bit longer, so I'm actually still doing it. It's a little bit longer than 4 weeks. And I'm doing it with one of our faculty members in the medical informatics department. His name is Dr. Jacopo Valiano. And my project right now is the evaluation of autoencoder-based medical recommendation systems. It is really cool. as you guys have seen, I do not really come from a very technical background. I do not come from a very programming heavy background. But through the pre-master and these hands-on opportunities to get to know and work with technology, I've actually been able to improve my skills a lot to the point where I feel comfortable taking on a project like this. And everybody here, all the professors, all the faculty members, they're extremely supportive and they will definitely meet you where you are at. And so that is just one way that I'm getting hands-on experience with the more technical side.
Thank you. Well,
Hello. I am the second student that will be speaking today. My name is Karel, and I am in the second year of the master, and also thankfully the last one. Um, so as you can see, I am a bit older than your general student. I'm 27 years old. And that's also because I studied medicine at first. Um, I was born in Cuba, and I did my bachelor in medicine in Maastricht. Um, and during the Master of Medicine, I was working in the hospital for about a year and a half. But I also did not think that the clinical work was really meant for me. Um, and during my research internship, I found out that I really like working with data, and I wanted to go in and look into something more technical, and see if I could find something that would fit me better. And that's how I found also the medical informatics master, and I did the pre-master 2 years ago, closer to 3 now. Um, and during the medical informatics master itself, I went into the sustainable e-health track. So the other track, and Sophie's doing the AI for health one, right? The sustainable e-health track focuses more on user-centered design, and also how to make and keep changes in healthcare sustainable so that they also go longer, and you need to spend either less money into it, or just in general, it creates a more long-lasting effect for the environment, since new developments in the world also need for the environment to be able to keep up with everything that we throw at it. And it's also a part of our own duty to help out in the matter. So right now, I'm doing my thesis internship as well. The bottom left picture is me signing my contract at Sectra Imaging. So I'm doing my thesis internship, my scientific research project with an imaging company. And I will tell you a little bit more about that in my next slide, I think. Um, First, though, I will tell you about my favorite courses that I took during the master. One of them was in the second semester, so that one we haven't talked about yet, and it's called Healthcare Logistics. This course is sometimes seen as the most difficult course in the whole master. Um, it's a toss-up between this course and Floris's course. They're the more technical, more heavy-duty courses. You also have to take an exam for this one. But what healthcare logistics entails is that you slowly build up your knowledge on how to use math and logic to calculate how you should make a process more efficient. So let's say you start with um, you have an operating room, and you want to find out how many operations you can do in a year of which type, to get the most money out of it, if that's your goal. But then you add another layer onto it, and you are looking at, okay, I have 5 types of operations. How do I combine these, and how many of them can I do in a year to make it, again, the most efficient for money costs? But also, if you have rules to this, let's say now you need to do at least 500 of a type and at least 500 of a different type. How do you combine all this? You get a lot of mathematical theories of how you can do this, and then you keep making it more and more difficult. Then you also have to staff this operating room. You also need to make sure that the nurses have days off. You can have them working every day. You have part-time nurses, you have full-time nurses. all of this comes into play, and you are basically building a very complicated 5-dimensional Lego. But what I like the most about it is how you feel you feel very good about yourself when you can figure out how to make this work. And also, this is very important for healthcare as it is. Again, you're trying to make it as efficient as possible with with the least resources that you can to spend. And the teacher of this course is also a very honorable mention of why it's also so successful. This teacher, Aleida Braxma, she will take as much time as you need or anyone needs to explain everything. And if it takes an hour, it takes an hour. And if it takes 3 hours, it takes 3 hours. But she will take as much time as necessary to make sure that everybody understands. And at the end of the day, everybody does pass the course. So it's not as difficult as I'm making it out to be. The second course that I want to talk about is human-centered e-health. This is part of the e-health track that you do in the second year. And it's the very first course that you get. During this course, we got to work on a project. Every single group had their separate project. And you got to design something for a family that has a child with complex care needs. Complex care needs can be a lot of different things. You can think about, for example, kids that cannot see or kids that cannot walk, or maybe in some cases, they might have some kind of neurological disorder. And because of this, they also cannot process their emotions or they cannot process other things. And you get to meet one of these parents. These are real life families. You meet the parents and you interview them. And then you go and find out, okay, what can we design to make the lives of this entire family better? And this is how you get a glimpse of how to do user-centered design. You really design something based on what your users need, instead of designing something just because you can. But then instead of it being used, it will get just put on a shelf because people will not want to use it as much. And I really appreciated this course because at the end, once you were done designing it and testing it, you got to present it to the family as well. Not the entire family would come. The kids generally do not come to these events. But the families are often very grateful to you for either, well, for starters, you get to hear their very interesting stories, but also you get to help them have ideas on how to make their lives better as well. So those were the two courses that I enjoyed the most during the master. And I'm also going to tell you a little bit about the 2 internships that I did. Both of them I did with the eHealth Learning and the eHealth Learning lab. And the first one was scoping review. So I basically read about 50 articles during the 4 weeks and visualized my results to show everyone in the department what use cases vital sign monitoring had. Basically, this is a new field that doesn't have as much literature in it. And we were trying to scope what are these wearable devices really used for, and where are these studies published. So Floris, if you can click next. There you can see how I visualized the results of all of these articles into which devices are even available on the market, and which can be used for remote continuous monitoring. So this is when people are monitored either in the hospital continuously or at home, instead of having a nurse go up to them 3 or 4 times a day and measure their blood pressure or measure their heart rate. And my second internship was the heuristic evaluation of an explainable AI dashboard. Basically, now that you have so many AI algorithms being produced, how can you tell whether the output that these algorithms give you, whether they can be understood and whether they're helpful and whether they're presented in the right way for doctors to be actually able to use them? Can you go to the next one? So this is an example of what an AI dashboard looks like. And you can imagine that for someone that is not technical, you see these and you think to yourself, do they really understand what any of this means? And how can they use this to help them either diagnose or treat a patient? So I did the heuristic evaluation with the help of Dr. Linda Peute, who is the director of the eHealth Living and Learning Lab. And it resulted in a publication as well. So you really are given a lot of room to grow and room to prove yourself also as a researcher or as a medical informatician during the master. So I can only recommend. And now I'm going to talk about my thesis internship, which I'm doing right now. My project is with a very difficult long sentence called Standardized Data Acquisition Method for Secondary Use of Health Data in a Clinical PACS. What that really means is I'm trying to develop something for radiologists mostly, but anyone that can use one of these systems, a picture archiving and communication system, to be able to collect data as they're doing their normal clinical work. As you can see in this picture, a radiologist is often looking at medical images and making reports and signing them off. That is what a big part of the day looks like. And instead of having, and if they need to collect data for something, instead of having an Excel sheet or a piece of paper or anything, you can have something created into the system that they're using so that they can fill in a quick questionnaire while they're doing their work, and then they're done with that, and they don't need to be keeping up with an Excel sheet and also patient identifiers or anything like that. This also came, again, from the use of AI in healthcare. Now, you can even have AI help you diagnose patients through the system. And there's so many new AI algorithms that produce an output and have been checked on the data that they were trained on. But how can you tell that after a year they're still performing as well, or after 2 years? How can you tell if they perform as they should on women compared to men? You can't really tell until you check it in the practice. So they're also using the app that I'm designing to check how these AI are performing in clinical practice as well. So as you can see, there's a lot of domains that are tied to this research that I'm doing, and all of them were covered during the master. And I feel comfortable enough to say that I can, at least I feel comfortable enough to do a design that's also user-centered and have all the background knowledge that I did here and to use in practice as well. That was it from me.
If you're interested, how can you get in? Well, we have a few admission requirements. You must have followed our Bachelor Medische Informatiekunde, but none of you did. Okay, we have another possibility. You can have a relevant education background and a good motivation, and you must follow our pre-master program. Then you can also start our master. If you are a non-Dutch, non-native English speaker, you also need to pass an English proficiency test. Okay, pre-master program. That's a conversion program of 30 ECTS. And if you have completed this pre-master program, you get a certificate that gives you entrance to our master. The workload is 1 semester of full-time study, 30 ECTS in 1 semester. Yes, that's full-time. And it's divided into 15 topics, and that means also 15 exams. A remark that we just heard, there are not many exams. Yes, in the master are not many exams, but in the pre-master there are quite a lot, 15. And we see that some students really struggle with this, doing so many topics at the same time and then having normal classes and also exams. So don't underestimate this. But there are exemptions possible. Depending on your background, you can get exemptions for 1 or more topics. I'll show you the topics later to give you an idea. I'm not going to discuss all the topics. What will you get? You will get contact hours of mostly one, sometimes 2 days a week. And for the rest, it is self-study. So you will prepare, you will study material, and then you will come here and you will get a computer practical or a tutorial, not so much lectures, to see whether you understand and to practice with all the material and to prepare you for the exam. I will give you a link later to where you can find out about the tuition fee. I mentioned it here. For the pre-master, it's not that important, but it is maybe for the master. If you are from outside the EU, you really should have a look at the exact tuition fee that you will be paying. About the registration dates, if you want to start the master in February 26, then you have to start the pre-master 6 months earlier, so that's September this year. And when you're from the EA, then you need the deadline for registration is 15 May, outside EA 1 March. So that's quite quickly. And of course, you can also do this a little bit later. So when you start the master in September 27, then start pre-master in February 26, and the deadlines are 1 October and 1 August this year. And deadlines are hard deadlines. To give you an idea about the topics, I have divided them into 3 groups. The first group are more from computer science-like programs. So if you did a program in that direction, you may be able to find 1 or more topics you can get exemptions from. On the right-hand side are topics from medicine. Not so many, but they have a lot of pages, right, to learn, really memorize. And then at the bottom are topics that are really medical informatics topics, so probably you will not get exemptions there. So in summary, this is a unique program in the Netherlands, in an actual hospital. We have interesting elective tracks. We have good and motivated staff. So an interesting program. If you want to know more, here are a few links and we will put them in the chat, right? And then we have room for questions. Normally I would say let's start with the people here, but because of the time, we will start with the people at home, because for here we have more time. Are there any questions in the chats?
So there was a question. Is the pre-master program challenging for someone without a strong background or extensive experience in math and logic?
Here we go. Yeah, sorry. Is it challenging? A little bit, but my background is not technical at all before I started the pre-master or the master. And from what I can remember, the math and logic courses were not the most difficult. You could definitely pass them. There is there's more than enough content, and if you can cover it within the allocated time, you can definitely pass it. It's not like you're starting an AI heavily focused entire study.
Yeah, I can confirm that. And it's really just to make sure that you have the foundations of these topics to make sure that you're not completely lost during the master. So it's not going to go into really the most in-depth version of these topics. It's really just to make sure that when we do go in depth in class, that you're not completely lost and we're all kind of starting from somewhat of an even playing field. And I will say that do follow Floris's advice. It is quite intensive. Like if you're taking classes and you're working, et cetera, and you think you can do this like on top of that, maybe you can, but I would say err on the side of caution because I definitely put in a lot of work to pass these exams. While they were not impossible, I did it. It was a lot of work. It is not, however, the most difficult, impossible thing.
Yep. Yeah.
Are the projects individual?
Are they?
Individual.
Is the question about the master, or I assume?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but
We have no projects in the pre-master, so that's
I was just
easy.
asking because the pre-master has changed a little bit, but
Yeah.
the master projects are almost always group projects. And that is also something that trains you for what this field looks like, whether you're working for a company later or even like in the hospital, it'll always be a group setting, whatever project you're working in.
But the exemptions are, of course, the internships.
Yeah.
And the scientific research projects.
Yeah.
Do you need to follow the pre-master if you finished a bachelor's in AI or AI at the UvA?
Yes.
Wait. Is it possible to do the pre-master part-time?
No.
If you start the pre-master on February 2026, it means that you start your master on September 2026. I am correct?
No. Start your pre-master in February 26.
Yeah.
Then you start your master in September 27. Oh, is that correct? No, that's okay. September 26. Yeah. Sorry.
I did HBO business, IT, and management. Do you think I'm admissible?
HBO business
IT and management.
could be. Just send your question to the email address at the top, pre-master me, and they will help you and can give you an indication whether you are admissible or not.
What is the admission process like? Will there be an intake interview? Is there a maximum of spots?
There's no maximum of spots, and there is an intake interview. So once you have uploaded your information, you will they will ask you for an interview, and then you will hear after some time whether you are admitted.
Okay. Someone asks, could you please share a list of electives available for students starting in February?
There is no fixed list. If the topic is of, let's say, remote interest to medical informatics, so anything with computer science like or medical like or many topics possible.
If you do the pre-master in September, is it possible to start the master in September the year after, or do you immediately have to start?
No, you can wait and you can start later. Yes.
Are the electives within the user experience available?
Available.
What?
I don't understand the question. Do
Available
you?
for students starting in February. Yeah, sorry, het spacede weg, maar...
I don't think so, right? The sustainable e-health track is only available in September.
Yep.
I have a bachelor's degree in software engineering. Do I meet the academic requirement to do a master in medicine informatics?
Pre-master. I suppose they mean yes. You need a pre-master, but you will get exemptions for several computer science or maybe all the computer science topics. Yeah, is that these are the most important questions from home? Okay, let's go to lecture room. Are there any questions here? If you have a question, please press the button near the mic, then everyone can hear you. Yep.
So how long a pre-master degree is valid? How long can I wait until I start the master program itself?
I'm not sure whether there is a real final date, but you can wait at least a year. Other questions?
How long does
Yeah, okay.
How long does the pre-master take?
6 months.
6 months. Okay.
So in the pre-master course, are all the courses at the same time? The 15 courses?
No, not all at the same time. That would be really terrible. I think there are about well, we will reschedule it a bit. So I'm not completely sure how it will be in our next, because we just had one real run and we're just now doing the second run. We want to make a few changes. I've maybe on average about 4 at the same time. And then some are running longer and some are really short. It's a mix.
Do you need to be graduated from your bachelor's degrees if you want to start a pre-master?
How was this again? Yes, the moment that you start with the pre-master, your bachelor's degree must be finished. But you can already, of course, start with registering, and then okay, if you're not, something goes wrong and you're not finished, then okay, then your registration stops.
Okay.
There's someone in the chat who asks, how long is the internship in the second year? Most of the courses take place in the UMC, right? What is that like from students' perspective?
I assume the internship in the second year, they mean the one for your thesis. That one is 7 months long. 2 months are part-time because you're also taking a course at the same time. And then the other 5 months are full-time. So then let's say you start in November with the internship and you finish at the end of June. And the other question was, was it like taking the courses at the AMC? At the UMC, well, of course it varies a lot per topic, but for some courses it doesn't really matter if it's at the AMC or not, because it's just very theoretical, and you could have it somewhere else. But of course, it's also convenient to have access to your teachers that are right here in this building. But for other courses, it's actually quite nice to be in the hospital setting, because then you also get to have guest lecturers that are also working in the hospital. You get to have contact with a lot of other specialties. And what about you? Do you have any other additions?
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I think it's a really interesting environment to be taking classes in. I actually didn't know that all the classes, or at least all the classes I've taken so far, have been here. So it is very convenient. You will always come here. And like Harel said, we get a lot of guest lecturers. And so we get a lot of people from Department of Pharmacology, from medicine, medical informatics. And so you do get to really get a sense of who are the faculty here. And I think that's really neat.
Are there more questions? Yeah.
Could you explain better how it works if I started on February, because I don't have the tracks that would be in September for the AI and e-learning? How would be the program presenting? Like I choose myself or no? How it would be working?
No, you didn't start in February, of course. No. Then if you start in February, then you will follow along with the entire group the second semester. And then after half a year, it's September. So now you follow the first semester, year one. And then it's February again. So then you will do elective courses somewhere. And then you start your scientific research project.
But then I will choose the elective courses. It's not going to be like, oh, better to do this, and that. Yes?
Yep. It just works. It works better if you start in September. But February, definitely possible. Yep. Other questions?
Yeah. How many first-year students were there this year?
Sorry, how many?
How many first-year students in the masters?
I think we're around 25-ish.
25.
Oh, more. It's more. You were with 30.
Oh, oops, my bad. Well,
31 actually.
Oh, I can't count apparently. So yeah, we're 30 this year.
Gael?
We were 22, I think. We were a smaller group.
Yeah, and I'm expecting more next year. Maybe in the 40s. Depends on you. Yep, at the back.
I have a question for the students. What are your plans like after your master? Do you want to start working? Like, what kind of jobs do you do?
Sure, I'll go first, but Sophie will also answer. I want to start working also because I studied medicine at first and I have clinical experience. So I will likely start working for a company as soon as I'm done. And I'm really liking it where I'm doing my thesis right now. It's also a reason why I wanted to do it with a company. I wanted to know what it was like to work with a company or for a company before I finished the master. And yeah, there's a lot of possibilities, right? From what Floris mentioned, you could also do a PhD, or you could keep working in the medical informatics department somehow. I know that there's some students that also are working for the eHealth Living and Learning Lab, even though they're not doing a PhD. So you have a lot of options. I just so happens to not want to do a PhD, and that's why I want to start working.
And what kind of job do you want to do? What are you doing right now?
What I'm doing right now is very research heavy, right? Because it's part of the master. But when I finish, I would like to go either into data analytics or as a support engineer for the company that I'm working for right now. So something more technical, and I also will probably have to keep learning skills on the job, but that's always part of it.
My answer is a little bit less sure than his. I am still deciding on whether or not I want to go start working in industry or if I want to go the more academic route and take a PhD. And I'm kind of just waiting to see, how it goes, what internships or how my internship goes, what opportunities arise. And what I do like about this program is that you do have several options. And so those are kind of the two options that I'm debating. I do want to go somewhere technical. So I'm very interested in the technical aspects of this program, especially like what Jarel is doing, which is analytics of medical images. I find that subject to be very, very interesting. Now, whether or not I want to pursue something like that in academia or in industry, I'm still deciding.
I think that was an excellent final question. Unless there are really burning questions that need to be answered now, I'd like to thank you. Thank you all for your questions. I'd like to close this session. And then for the people here, you can still have a chat with us here. So thank you all for coming. Good luck with making your choice, and I hope to see you, if you're interested, here again in 6 months. Goodbye.